kick off our series called This Is Us. So this is our family series that we are doing, and we are so excited that you are here as we kick this thing off. And one of the things I just want to do real quick, if you're a guest of ours, I want to again welcome you, say thanks so much for being here. On your way in, you received a connection card program. You can take that connection card, fill it out with as much information as you feel comfortable. And on your way out, there's a Blue Guest kiosk that you can turn that in just for a movie ticket. Our way of saying thanks for being with us today. I want to welcome those watching online as well. You want to like and share, we'd love that as well. You could do that here. As we are doing this series, how many of you have watched the TV show This Is Us? How many fans of This Is Us? Come on. How many of you have no clue what This Is Us? Man, we want to welcome you guys to the real world. A lot of single folks here. They're like, nah, I don't know. My wife started watching the show because everybody was publicizing about it and raving about it, and said she started watching it, then we started watching it, and now I watch it. And I'm like, babe, it's on. So we have it. We like it. We like it. It's a good TV show. Here's what I like the most about this TV show is they hit on some topics, some hard-hitting topics, and that's something that we want to talk about throughout this series in the next 4 weeks. And I want to encourage you, don't miss a week. Be here every week as we continue to talk about putting God as a priority in our family and how to improve, how to have successful family lives. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. My wife's going to join me at some point in this series, and she's going to preach. She was like, let's do it together. I was like, I'll stand there. And she was like, okay, great. That's all I need you to do. I was like, okay, I'll do that. So we're gonna do that and just have some fun in this series. What I like the most about that video clip is, as parenting, there's always a pressure on our back. There's always a pressure. And that we set the foundation that our kids will climb upon. And we're going to talk about that this week. But I think one of the better things that I noticed in that video was how the son just kept moving from every father's back. And it shows this imagery of this community of, hey, we're in this together. And to me, that's a perfect imagery of the church. Now, we're not here to raise your kids, but we are here to say, hey, we're in this together. A great Nigerian proverb says that it takes a village to raise a child. And to say, hey, listen, we are in this together. We're going to fight together. We're going to help. And there's nothing greater than when a community of people come around when there is a need. That is what the church was designed for. That's the body. That's who we were called to be. I want to share some great news with you about what it looks like to be a part of the church. And we talked about cannonballing, jumping in and making some kingdom of God-sized waves within our community. And man, you guys did that with our Moore's By outreach that we did and bringing in all kinds of stuff from notebooks and pens and papers. We brought coffee and donuts and all kinds of fun stuff. We'll show you some stuff here in a little bit about that. But I just want to say, man, you should be proud of yourselves as a church for making a difference in this community. Here's another way. We had a member in our church, Eric and Jessica Limbick, and they walked through something where, you can follow their story on Facebook or even Caring Bridge, where Eric had a heart attack, and he was out at the house, and man, medics came in and reviving him. He's home. He's doing really well. Come on. That's something to be excited about. But even when talking with Jessica and just, asking, hey, is there anything you need? I know that when we went through our situation with our family, the body, the community comes around and it's like, hey, we're here for you. We want to help you. We want to do anything. And same thing with this family. That's what the church is. So I just want you to know, I'm very, very grateful and very honored to say, man, we are a part of a church that is generous, that is caring, that is loving, that is kind, that is part of a community. And I just want to brag on you for a moment and say, you ought to be proud of yourself and your church. So come on, give it up one more time for the church this morning. All right, some people will say, hey, why are we doing a family series? Here's what we do. Every year we try to do something on the family, and I believe it's important. And the reason is if you go all the way back into the very beginning of Genesis, from the very beginning with Adam and Eve, the enemy, Satan, has always tried to attack the family unit. From the very beginning of time, that has been the focal point for the enemy. And I believe still to today. Over 55% of first-time marriages end in divorce. 60% in their second marriage. And the numbers keep going higher and higher. Why? Because the enemy is after the family unit. The enemy has always been out to steal, kill, and destroy. The enemy has always been out to try to divide what God brings together. And so we have made a priority here as a church. Say, hey, we're going to make a priority. We're going to make a huge focal point about reaching families and saying, hey, how do we add value back into people's lives and back into the home and back into people's families? And so that's why we're doing this series. This is us, because the enemy hasn't stopped. Some of you realized that on your way in this morning, that the enemy is after your family. Some of you have realized this week that you are stressed out more than ever before. You're running from one thing to the next. You're overwhelmed, and that's because school started. Jeez, there's no wonder Hard Rock Cafe at the Mall of America did moms and mimosas on the first day. They knew, and so we know as well. We have communion juice. Man, it's often times when it's in these moments for us where we feel like we're not making it, we're not good enough. Here's what we tend to do is we tend to look at what other people are doing. We tend to look at what other families got going on, and then we look at them and we think, oh my gosh, they've got it figured out. They're so good and they're amazing. I mean, their kids are well-mannered, and look at ours. Their kids eat vegetables for snacks and ours eat cupcakes with sweet tea. Their kids are so awesome and amazing, and they, above everything else, they have craft night. Every week they do craft night. Their family does craft night. I want to do craft night. Look at me. Look. It's a lie. Those kids hate craft night, and the husband can't stand her for coming up with the dumbest craft ever. But yet, for 20 seconds, here's what you got. Here, smile. You're not smiling. If you don't smile, then there are no crafts for you. And really, what they do is they tell them, I got Twinkies, and you smile. They smile. Bam, they put it up there. They take about 40 more because the first one wasn't good enough. And they post it on social media, and then you and I look at them and they go, that's the perfect family. Why can't this be us? And I just want you to know, it's a lie. And I don't pretend to know everything about parenting. And if you wanted a This Is Us vulnerable moment like that, let me give you mine. There are many times in life and almost on a weekly basis that I struggle with the thoughts of not being a good enough dad. Every week, there's a thought that's overwhelming, like I could do more. I could do better. And I try to stop looking at some of your craft night Facebook posts. And I wish that there was like a different emoji I could put on your page, but it's not. But there are times that I feel like I'm just not good at being a dad. And never forget when somebody actually said that and they complimented me. They were like, you're such a good dad. I was like, and I started to like actually cry. I'm like, really? Because I don't feel like I'm a good dad. Tell me more. I need some affirmation in here. Man, the truth is it's not just me. And as I said that, I look out and I see some of the families just nodding their heads. I see parents going, yeah, me too. It's not just me. It's not just you. This is us. This is parenting. Here's what I want you to hear this morning. You'll see it up on the screen. You are more in control of your family's future than you think you are. Let me say it again. Let me speak it into your heart and into your soul. You are more in control of your family's future than you think you are. We've got to get this, even if our kids are grown and out of the house. And for some of you, I'm so sorry if your kids are grown and they're still in the house. We've got to get this. We've got to get it. It's never too late to re-engage into the pursuit of healthy, God-honoring, life-giving families. And today is your day as we're going to talk about, I want to give you 3 tips to a successful family. 3 tips to successful family. The other day, I took my kids to a place that I frequent a lot, not Chick-fil-A. The other place, TJ Maxx. And so I'm all about some TJ Maxxing, and I'm maxing and relaxing in TJ Maxx, and I'm walking through, and this lady stops me, and she goes, "Are you finding everything okay, sir?" I go, "I am. I'm finding a few things." I said, "My kids are finding a few things over there." She goes, "Oh, you have your kids with me?" I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "I like to tell people more like this. You get to hear them before you see them. They're on the other side. Those are them. The one that keeps going across the scary boo thing and makes it keep going off that you're trying to sell for Halloween. Yeah, that's my kid. That's mine. That one's mine." And I'll never forget, she goes, "Oh, isn't that cute?" I go, "You can't see them." She goes, "Well, I remember what it was like raising 4 boys. The youngest was 25 years old." And I said, "Wow." I said, 4 boys? Like no girls, nothing?" She was like, "Nope, 4 boys." I said, "You mind if I ask you, like, what would be your greatest advice?" We're in this family series, and I'm a pastor, and I'm just thinking of some advice. I gotta write a sermon again. I mean, every week I write one, but I'm just trying to come up with some good stuff. What would you say? What's some good advice? And here it is. Watch this. I actually wrote it into our series. Tip number 1: if you want to have a successful family, here's what she says: mother of 4 boys. First thing you got to do is be consistent. And I thought, hold tight, I'm writing that down. B-E, consistent. Slow it down. She's like, you got to be consistent. No matter what you're doing, you've got to be consistent. When you are parenting people, parenting kids, you've got to be consistent. And you have to continue to be consistent even when they're older. And I thought, dude, that was even good. So I was going to take all the credit, but thank you for TJ Maxx theology. This lady was awesome. I invited her here. If you're here, we love you. Need a little discount. No matter what phase you are in, as far as parenting, here's my advice to you: you've got to be consistent. Now, historically, there are 3 phases to parenting. Number 1 is the baby and toddler phase. 3 phases. Number 1, baby and toddler phase. How many of you are in the baby and toddler phase right now? Yes, yes, yes. Are we? I don't know. Asher's not. Okay. See how well I do it. Now you know why I don't feel good as parenting. I don't even know how old my kids are. Number 2, there's the baby and toddler, number 1. Number 2, there is the elementary and preteen. There's the elementary and preteen. We are in that phase. We are totally in that phase. As my wife looks at me and goes, I am in that phase. I don't know if you're insulting me and be like, you're still in the elementary and preteen, John. There's the element. How many of you are elementary preteen? How many of you elementary preteen? Come on. I love it. Okay, here's the 3rd phase, teenage years. God bless you. Yeah. No teenage parent raised their hand high. You notice that? Every teenage parent was like, I want to make sure that you introduce yourself to Pastor Luke in the back. And Pastor Luke, raise your hand high. See, he loves kids. He's got his hand way up there. Pastor Luke does an amazing job. Now, historically, there have always been 3 phases of parenting. There's the elementary, the baby toddler, elementary preteen, and then the teenage years. However, researchers are discovering now that there is a 4th phase to parenting, and they call it, here it is, emerging adults. Emerging adult. Hey, here's what they've proven. You're in that stage. How many of you are in the emerging adult stage? Wave them high. Wave your hands in the air like you just don't care. Tell them to leave. You know what I'm saying? Hey, adolescent runway has been lengthened. If you know anything about planes, the heavier the plane, the bigger the plane, the longer the runway needs to be. And the adolescent runway is longer now than it ever has. Matter of fact, here's what researchers say, that 26 is the new 18. How many of you come from the generation when your parents, at least for me, I don't know if it's good parenting or not, but my dad would tell us when I was younger, when you turn 18, you got to go. Mom and I was the last one of 4, so they were really excited. They're like, hey, when you turn, all my life from 9 years old, I can remember being like, hey, when you turn 18. And it was 16, and it was like, oh, dear God. It was 17. It was like, oh, man, it's happening. And I remember asking my mom going, is he for real going to kick it? She was like, you better figure something out. the runway is longer now. And so that 18, feeling like 26 is a new 18, that runway of kids launching out is lengthened. And so now there's the fourth phase. Now let me just say this. No matter which phase you are in, consistency is everything. It's important for you to discover, no matter which phase you're in, to discover what success looks like for your family. If it's craft night, then baby, you do craft night. If your family's like, I feel like you're so, just bad-mouthing us because we actually do craft night. Listen, I love you for doing craft night. I got two very active boys. At the moment we pull things out like scissors, somebody's getting hurt. So we don't do craft night. We do duct tape night. When we duct tape, they think it's awesome. We duct tape them and leave them there. My wife's idea. We'll be back. If you love craft night, do craft night. If your board games, do board games. I know one family, I think they are the coolest people ever. It's a father of two little girls, and every Friday night, they do pizza in a movie. No matter where they are, they do pizza in a movie. They're always doing pizza in a movie. If they're out of town on Friday night, it's pizza in a movie. Sometimes they make their own pizza. For all you health people, sometimes it's cauliflower crust. Trying to win everybody over here today. Man, they do sometimes they order out. Some of you are like, you lost me at that one. Sometimes they order Domino's, and you're back, Jack. They order, but then there's always something that they're doing. Here's what I would say is, you have to define what success looks like no matter what phase you are in. Baby toddler, elementary preteen, teenage years, emerging adults. Maybe you start doing craft nights with them. We're going to build a craft called an apartment and a budget. We're building something here. No matter what it is. Listen, here's what I would tell you is simply this. Don't let social media define what success looks like for you and for your family. Do not let social media define what success looks like, because here's what you have to understand about social media. Social media is a billboard, not a diary. Social media is a billboard where the faces are photoshopped and edited, and everything's made to look good. That's why you have to hang your camera up high so you don't get the double chin. You've got to angle it so you can get some of your fat arms out of the way. You've got to do all the right things to get all the right angles to make everything look good. You want to take it as many times as you can so everything looks just perfect, and that's the billboard. And here's what I would say to you is just simply this. Stop judging your diary based on other people's billboard. Stop judging what's going on in your, maybe we don't have it all together, and maybe we're not good enough, and maybe we're not a good family, and maybe we're not a good fit, and maybe this isn't a good marriage, and maybe this isn't a good home, and maybe this isn't a good job. Because what happens when we do that is when we begin to compare ourselves, we begin to start creating these feelings inside of us, and maybe we're not good. Maybe we stink. And here's what I want you to understand. You may stink, but they stink too. You just can't smell it on Facebook. They smell. So what do you have to do? You've got to define what success looks like for you and for your family in the phase that you're in, and be consistent. Be consistent. Because I hope if you're a note taker, write this down. Consistency lays the foundation that'll last a lifetime. For Dave and his two little girls and his wife, man, it's consistency. Every Friday night, we're watching a movie and we're getting a pizza. It's consistency. This is what we do. This is who we are. And we're always going to do that. And I can imagine if I was the dad of two girls, I would say, hey, and when you get older, your boyfriend's going to be coming here. And if I've got to eat cauliflower pizza, he's going to eat cauliflower pizza. And if I've got to watch princess movies, he's going to watch princess movies. And when you get married, you're coming back over here for princess and pizzas. Okay? And so that's consistency that'll lay a foundation that will last a lifetime. Here's how Proverbs says it. Solomon in his proverbial wisdom says it like this. Train up a child in the way he should go. Notice this word right here. Train up a child in a way that he should go. Not the way that you should go, or the way you wish you could have gone, or the way that you think they should go. Train up a child in the way that they should go. Now watch what it says. And when he is old, he will not depart from consistency, consistency, consistency. No matter what phase of parenting you are in, you are always training up your child. Be strategic, be intentional, because when that arrow is released at 26 years old, it'll maintain its trajectory because of your consistency. And the way that we train them up in practice, which is at home, is how they'll play in the game, which is life in their marriage. How we train them in our home is how they'll be parents. How we train them in the home is how their marriage will look. How we train them at home is how they'll act in their careers and in their, how we train them, because now the home is the foundation of what takes place in their life. And I just want to encourage you, be consistent. Be consistent in loving them and having joy and peace and patience and self-control, leaning on God. That's what a successful family looks like in every single phase. Trusting in the Lord. Be consistent. Be consistent. Be consistent. Tip number 2 for a successful family is this right here. Number 2, according to the TJ Maxx lady, you've got to figure out some priorities. Number 2, develop priorities in your life. What is it that your family is going to make a priority? I read this up on the screen. You could see this. I just copied it and put it down. Successful, strong families have one thing in common. They have a handful of principles they are constantly rallying around and repeating that become the baseline of everything they do. Successful, strong families have one thing in common. They have a handful of principles they are constantly rallying around and repeating. Constantly rallying around consistency. Constantly rallying around consistency. They're constantly rallying around and they're repeating. And they're constantly rallying around and they're repeating. Pastor, you're repeating yourself constantly. I know. So you would get it. And they become the baseline of everything they do. As families like you and I that are looking to get better, we have to ask ourselves this question. What is our family consistently rallying around and repeating? What is your family consistently rallying around and repeating? Is it sports? Is it fishing? Is it cabins? Is it dance recitals? What is your family consistently rallying around and repeating? And listen, hear my heart real quick, because some of you are like, he said fishing, that jerk. Listen, nothing wrong with any of those things that I mentioned. Our family does them all, except for the dance recitals. We don't do the dance recital part. If they wanted to, we would let them. My kids play sports. And my kids go fishing up north with my in-laws. And we come back on Saturday in time for Sunday. Why? Because I don't like my in-laws? No offense. I love my in-laws. The reason we do that is because I can't expect to raise godly kids if I'm not consistently putting them in godly environments. Why are we coming back? Because we got church. Okay. It's to the point where my 9 and 5-year-old understand, okay. And now there are times, listen, my kids play sports and I love it. And we work things out. And when Aiden was playing baseball and everything was awesome and great, and then they'd have a game on Sunday, priorities are priorities. We go to church first. And if we've got to work through that, we'll work through that. And can I tell you where they are today? Because I'm such a great dad. They're up north fishing. There are times you just got to be flexible. But they know where dad is. Dad, you going to church? You bet it. I get paid to go to church. I got to be here. I got a job. That's consistency. But they know, and there are times where you just got to be able to say, hey, you guys have fun. I don't have to be so regimented like, no, it's Sunday, we go to church. We're the pastor's kids. Get up, get dressed. What is wrong with you? It's having some consistency. But there's also some fun as well. Nothing wrong with that. My kids do all those things. But if I'm not raising them and I'm not putting them in consistently in godly environments, then I can't expect to have different kind of results. And so many parents want to train up their child in the right way. I can't tell you how many times I sit with people and they're like, my kid's this and my kid's that, and I'm going through this and we're going through this and we're trying to figure this out. And there's constantly something that's going up. And there's, man, I just wish I could do better. Many parents want to raise their kids in a right path with godly character and godly integrity. And the question is this, let me just pose it to you. What is your family consistently rallying around to end up with those kind of results? Is it your priorities? Is it your hobbies? And let me just throw this out there. What priority is church in the orbit of your family and what your family is orbiting around? What part is church in where you guys are going? Is it about you? Is it about their scholastics? Is it about their recitals? Is it about their athletics? Is it about your resting time? Is it about your fishing time? What is it that your family has to rally around? Because the truth is we all rally around something. What is it that you are rallying your family around? Because what we orbit our life around matters. Here's how the Apostle Paul says it in Romans chapter 6. Verse 16, he says, don't you realize that you have become a slave to whatever you choose to obey? The Apostle Paul is saying that whatever we are consistently rallying our family around takes over our life and it becomes our master. It becomes everything to us. We've got to make sure that we're home for the Vikings game. We've got to hey, listen, don't mess with it. It's that one thing that if I mentioned today, you would be like, dude, we are finding a new church. We are out of here. I cannot believe he talked about crocheting. He talked about crochet of all things. He could have talked about anything. He talked about my sport. He talked about my thing. And listen, we all rally around something. What is your family rallying around? And listen, I get it. From a dad of two very active boys who love to play sports and love to be going and going and going. Listen, I get it. Everything in life is competing with the church. And our family is right there with you. But at some point, we have to decide that we're not going to try to be like everybody else. That we're trying to raise godly kids who will become godly adults, who will eventually become godly parents themselves. So we've got to really find out what is it that we rally around. My sons love playing sports, and we tried putting Aiden in hockey, and God knows he could do everything but stop. He was awesome on skates, and he would go and he would fly up and down the place, and he'd use his stick as a weapon. I'm like, my man, it was awesome. I didn't grow up playing hockey. I don't know hockey. But most of the time, hockey games are on what day? Oh, the land of hockey, come on. Sundays. Aiden said, Dad, I'd like to try hockey. I said, buddy, most hockey games are going to be on Sundays, and that's not going to work for our family. And I can tell you, oh, man, Dad, come on. Can't we figure something out? Yeah, I already did. We're not doing it. But just once. Can we just try it? You did. And it doesn't work. We go to church on Sundays. We are focusing around that. That is what we build our life on. And so, no, I'm sorry, bud, we're not going to do how. You can play other sports, and when it doesn't, can I play fall ball? Fall ball this year is on Sundays. Every game is on Sundays. Sorry, bud, we're not doing that. Why? I like playing baseball. I know. But I'd much rather you grow up to be a godly man. Because I know what you hear on the baseball field from other players and from coaches. And I know what you hear in every other area. I know, parents, let me just tell you, when they get on the school bus, when they get old enough to start riding the school bus, oh, dear Jesus. I heard this as a parent, and I was like, nah, whatever. When your kid comes home and says, hey, can I ask you what this word means? And you're like, whoa, hold on. Don't ever say that again. We need to talk. I know what they hear on the field. I know what they hear in schools. I know what they hear on the school buses. But I also know what they hear downstairs with Pastor Bethany. I also know what we are putting our kids inside of. I know what they're getting in them is going to help develop godly character and godly integrity inside of their life. And so it's my priority. It's our investment that we're saying, no, Sundays are our day where we go to church and we grow as a family. Don't you realize that you become the slave of whatever you choose to obey? We're trying to raise godly kids who will become godly adults who eventually become godly parents. Let me give you a third tip from our friend at TJ Maxx. Said a little bit different, and I'm going to paraphrase it in a sense, but rather than trying to look at everything our kids do, stop nitpicking on everything they do and trying to control them. And the way that I would say it is simply like this. Tip number 3 for raising a successful family, you've got to parent the heart. You've got to parent the heart. It's so tempting to parent behavior modifications in them. In other words, stop doing that. Sit down. Listen to me. Don't do that. Or here's the famous go-to one. How many have ever heard this as a child? Or maybe you said it as a parent. Because I'm the parent and I... How many of you have ever heard that one? How many have ever used that one? Because I'm an adult. Because I'm your dad. Or I can simply say it the way my folks said it. I brought you into this world. Woo! Hello. Now, I didn't say the rest of it. For those of you who want to critique my parenting, I didn't say it, but these people did. Just saying. Man, big difference in parenting. Big difference in generations, how it's changed. And yet, if we want to have the successful family, we have to parent the heart more than we parent their behavior. This teaches our kids, when we say, don't do that, don't do this, don't go here, don't go there, all we're teaching them is behavior modification. And let me tell you, from a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, it'll work. It'll work. It'll totally work. If you just want to just parent their behavior modification, it'll work for a little while until you leave the room. How many know what I'm talking about? You could say to your kids, don't do that. Don't hit your brother. That is not okay. You cannot hit your brother. We don't do that in our house. We are a kind, loving family. We love Jesus and we love each other. Now put your hands on him and just pray for him. That's the only kind of praying. That's the only kind of laying hands. That's all we're going to do. You're not going to do anything. Do you understand me? Behavior modification. Yes, Mom. Yes, Dad. Okay, great. Don't do that again. Okay. You leave the room. What happens? I told you not to cry. I told you not to tell on me. I told you. It happens again. Why? Here's why. Watch this. Some of you, this is going to be revolutionary for your mind, for your parenting, for your family. Because what you're trying to do is parent their behavior. And really what I heard this lady saying was, you've got to parent the heart. You've got to parent the heart. Jesus said it like this in Matthew chapter 12, verse 34. He says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Watch this, parents. Watch this. It's so much easier to modify the mouth, the outward behaviors, the responses. You'll modify it for a little while, but it won't change their heart. And if it doesn't change their heart, they'll do it again and again and again and again. Don't say that. Don't do that. What is wrong with you? The Bible says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. See, Jesus shows us it starts with the heart. It starts right here within our heart. We've got to parent the heart. So now the questions for our kids, when we walk into the room, is not, I told you not to do. I am the father of this house. I am the man of the, do you not respect me? And you ought to know who I am. When I come in, you can do that. Dad, you can do that. You can be Billy Bad Britches. And your kids will not respect you. They will fear you. Don't mistake fear for respect. Or we can go in and we can just simply say, hey, hold on, come here. What's going on? And you know what you're going to hear? Well, he did, not said anybody bad. What's going on in your heart that makes you want to hit him? I can parent behavior modification, but it starts with the heart. What's going on in your heart that makes you want to do that? Parents, if we parent the heart, here's what will happen. The mouth will catch up to the change of the heart. We've got to get to the heart. In order to train up our children in a way that is right, we have to parent the heart. Trust me, take it from somebody who will tell you firsthand, that's not easy. I even tried it this week where I'm going, come on. Hey. And I pulled my son up and I said, come here, come sit down. Come here. What's going on in here? Huh? What's going on in here? Where? In here. I don't know. What's going on in your heart? And I'm realizing for a 9-year-old that doesn't make sense. I don't know. What do you mean? A sarcastic 9-year-old, shall I add? And I'm like, bud, what is going on inside that makes you want to do that? Well, he bothered me. And I get that, bud. And now what I get to do is parent the heart. Listen, there are times people bother me. Try pastoring a church. Not you guys. I meant like in other places and stuff. And from what I've heard. From friends of a friend of a friend of a friend, not y'all. I'm like, dude, listen. You will find people in your school. You will find people in our home. You will find your marriage in your kids' life where you're going to be bothered. But listen, you can't respond to that. Just because your brother bothers you doesn't mean it gives you the right to hit him. Because when somebody at school bothers you, you're going to hit them. And when your kids bother you, you're going to hit them. And when your wife bothers you, you're going to hit her. And that's not okay. Hey, it starts here. Parenting the heart. Say, buddy, here, let's talk about that. Here's a this is us kind of moment. When I parent my kids' behavior, not their heart, I tend to do it from a negative standpoint. What is wrong with you? I've said some horrible things. I've looked at my kids and said, do you have a brain? Use it. All because I was parenting their behavior. And let me tell you, this really changed the way that I began to do things, is when I started to parent the heart. Not looking at what they did. What's wrong? Are you stupid? You're just stupid. You're an idiot. You're a moron. You're a disgrace. Why can't you be like your... Man, some of us have said things like that. But when we parent the heart, watch this. When we parent the heart, it's more life-giving. It's more encouraging. Hey, listen, I know you can do better. And I believe in you. And I love you enough to tell you that you can't act like that. You've got to check that feeling, that thought of trying to respond. You can't do that, man. When I parent their heart, I normally do it in a life-giving way. But when I parent their behavior, I don't always do it the right way. Solomon says it like this. In Proverbs 4:23, he says, above all else, guard your heart, for it determines the course of your life. I like to take these two scriptures for a second and just see the parallel between them. If I train up a child in the right way, that means I've got to parent the heart, because the heart determines the direction that they go in life. It all begins with the heart. Parents, in just a few moments, I want to pray over you that we would begin to parent the heart. Not the behavior modification. We parent the heart, because if I can guard my boys' hearts, the Bible says, Solomon in his proverbial wisdom says, it's his heart that determines the direction he goes in life. It's his heart. If I can guard that thing, if I can parent that heart, that it will shape him into being a godly man. It'll shape him into being a godly husband. It'll shape him into being a godly father. It'll shape him into being a person on his job that walks with character and integrity. It challenges him because I parent the heart to be who God's called him to be, to walk in love and in grace and forgiveness and sensitivity to the Holy Spirit. Why? Because I've made a decision. I'm going to parent the heart, because it's his heart that determines the direction and the quality of life he lives. It's the heart. Just take a moment, bow your heads, close your eyes. I want to pray over you. Just a moment. It's a heart. And maybe that's why Jesus said that he was more interested in our heart than our mind. Therefore, if you confess with your mouth and you believe in your heart, if I could believe in my heart that Jesus was the Son of God, it determines the direction and the quality that I live. He was after our hearts, not this whole behavior modification. And so maybe here today, it starts with you, mom, dad, single parent. Starts with you. You being consistent in that relationship with Jesus. Setting some priorities. Hey, this is what we're going to do as a family. We're going to do it from the heart. So with heads bowed, eyes closed, if you're here this morning, you say, Pastor, man, my heart is not in a right relationship with Jesus, but today I want it to be. I want to start making some changes in my life, and I want to start making Jesus the center of my heart. It's what we rally our family around, and I need him to help me. Not only make changes in my life, make some changes in my home. Heads bowed, eyes closed, and you say, Pastor, that's me. I'm just going to pray a prayer over you right where you are. I'm not going to ask you to get up or move around. Just simply say, raise your hand. I want